Kalkalos Boker Or, Daf Yomi Masechet Sanhedrin Daf Yudchet Amud Aleph. We're finishing the perek and we're starting a new perek. We just finished, start by the two dots on Yud Zayin Mubet on the bottom. Rabbi Nechemia Omer. Rabbi Nechemia comes and he says, Matayim u'shloshim keneged sarei asarot. You remember we said that you needed 230 people in the city, right, parallel to the sarei asarot. Those are the generals over tens. So Tanya Rabbi Omer, it's right, we learned. Rabbi comes and he says in Hebraita, Matayim, right, Yudchet Amud Aleph, 18a1. Matayim v'shivim v'shiva, you need 277. Right, that means even though we just came and we said 230, it's really 277 have to be there. You need 230 because of what Rav Nechemia said, right? Because of the Sarei Asarot, and you also need another Arba'im v'Shiva, another 47, because you needed to add on to the minyan of 23 Dayanim, so you have to add on another 47, because you need Shnaim. You always continue doing 2 by 2s, 2 by 2s, 2 by 2s. Remember, until you're going to get to the Shivim Dayanim. Right? That means if you're going to have to add from 23 to 70, you remember, but from there, you always add on by 2 by 2s, not by 1. That means even if one person is going to abstain, you're going to add on 2 by 2 by 2 by 2 until you get to the number of 70. So says the Gemara, Vatanya Rabbi Meir Omer, right? Matayim Shivim v'Shmona. You need 278.
I don't see where you want. What number you want?
18a1 on the top. And he says that you need by 278. So answers the Gemara, Lakashi, it's not a question. Har Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbanan. This is going to be Rabbi Yehuda and this is going to be Rabbanan. Meaning, according to Shtat Rabbi Yehuda, he holds the Binyan Dayanim of Sanhedrin Gdolah is going to be 70, and therefore all you need is 247, right? 247. Okay, in order to complete to the 70. Meaning you have to get from 23 to 70. Okay, everyone's with me? So 23 to 70 is 47. So he comes and he says, Ha Rabbanan, the other Shita is going to Rabbanan, that he says 71. That's why you need 248. Okay? Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in the Braita. V'samta lehem sarei alafim, sarei meot, sarei chamishim, sarei asarot, sarei alafim, shesh meot. Right? He says sarei meot, sheshet alafim. Sarei chamishim, shtem asar elef. Sarei asarot, sheshet ribo. נמצאו דייני ישראל שבעת ריבו ושמונת אלפים ושש מאות. He says, 1 second. How many, you know that there's like, colonels and there's lieutenants and there's the sergeants and there's this and, like many different levels. So he comes here and he says, how many did you have of each one? So the Sarei Alafim, meaning the ones that are in charge of thousands, there were 600. But if there's 600,000, so you have 600, the ones that each one is in charge of 1,000. Sarei Meot, the ones in charge of hundreds, how many? 6,000. But 6,000 times 100 is 600,000. Sarei Chamishim of 50s, how many? It's going to be double, so it's going to be 12,000. If it's going to be Asarot, how many? 600,000. Shishim Ribo, right? Shishim Elef, 60,000. Why is it going to be 60,000? But 60,000 times, right, the Asarot, right, the tens, going to get you to 600,000. So it comes out that Dayanei Israel, right, was 70,000, right? 78,600. Meaning when you put all those numbers together, how many Dayanim are there? So 70,600 Dayanim is according to the calculation, right, that we just came and we just made. Okay, if you look at the footnote, there's a whole thing there, but okay, fine. Okay, Adran Alach, Dinei Mamonot. We just finished the first chapter of Masechet Sanhedrin. So did you realize that it was only one Mishnah, right? And the first Mishnah that encompassed, a good, and basically it took us to the second Perek. Okay, we're going to start now the second chapter, Perek Sheni. Kohen Gadol Dan v'daninoto. A Kohen Gadol could judge. What does that mean? He could sit in a bedin and he could judge other people. V'daninoto. And also, they're going to judge him. Meaning, for example, let's say somebody's asking that he owes him money or on an avirah that he did. They're going to judge him as well. So he could judge and he could be judged. Yeah? The umeidinoto. Again, he's going to testify, and they're going to testify about him. Meaning, he's obligated to come to Bedin to testify about a testimony that he knows about, and they're going to testify about him as well. Choletz, right? He does chalitza to, for example, the brother, right, that he dies without any type of children. Okay? So he comes and he says that he does the mitzvah of chalitza, right? That means even a Kohen Gadol could do the mitzvah of chalitza. We're not going to say, he can't do chalitza because they have to spit in his, in the, because of the taking off the shoe and spitting and this. So no. He would still do the mitzvah chalitza. The choltzin liishto, right? They do chalitza to his wife, umyabmin et ishto. They also do yibum to his wife. Meaning not only chalitza, because remember, he cannot do yibum because that means she was not a betula, and he has to take a betula. However, though, he does do chalitza, and they do chalitza to him, meaning that if he dies without children, they do chalitza to his wife, and they do even yibum to his wife. Aval hu eno miyabem, but he's not allowed to do yibum. Neshu asur b'almana, but he's asur b'almana. Remember, the regular kohen is permitted in almana. He's prohibited in an almana. Okay, until here we're clear. Okay. Met lo met. If somebody passes away, eno yotze ahar amita. He does not go to do the levaya. He doesn't go to the levaya, right? He doesn't go after the coffin. Ela hen nichnasin. Rather they go in. Vehu nigla, and then he comes out. Hen niglin vehu nichseh. They become revealed, and then he becomes covered. Meaning, whenever he's always going to be like one street behind. So therefore, he's never going to be seen on the same street as the coffin. Okay. Ad petach sharaid, until the entrance of the city. That is the psak of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda says no, he doesn't leave the Bet HaMikdash at all, because it says in the pasuk, Omina Mikdash lo yetze. He does not leave the Mikdash. So according to this, he doesn't leave the Bet HaMikdash at all. According to the first one, he's accompanying the deceased, but never really accompanying it. It's always like, they make the turn, right? They continue going. Once they make another turn, now he's on the following one. Meaning he's always like one step behind, but he's never going to be seen on the same street, right? That's the first shita of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda says he never leaves the Bet HaMikdash. Yeah, so it doesn't do that until the Petach Shar. Remember, it says here until Petach Sharaid, because the cemeteries were always outside of the city. Nobody in their right mind would do a cemetery inside of the city. So it was always going to be right outside of the city. That's where they would come and they would do a cemetery. Okay? Ushehu menachem acherim. When he's going to come and he's going to be menachem acherim, derech kol ha'am ovrim bezeh achar zeh, ve'memune matzeo beno leben ha'am. Everybody comes in a shura. They come in a line, one after another. You remember we showed you everyone the picture, right? You remember the picture? Everybody, the Avelim are here. Everybody's coming one by one, passing by in a line, right? The Avelim are here. They're passing by in a line. Then it says that the Memune, which is his like right hand man, he's going to be Matzeo Beno Levenam. He's going to be here, and then there's the Kohen Gadol. So you've got. Here, I'll show you the picture.
It's got a little picture in the Gemara.
Oh, you got a little picture? I don't see any picture. No, I don't have any picture.
Later on, after the burial.
After the what?
The burial.
No, but what did the doctor say?
There is nobody in the better. There is not a substitute in the Europe.
There's other Kohanim, and there's this Gan Kohen Gadol, but yeah, but you don't really need. It's not like the Kohen Gadol had all those different services. He had one service a day. Here it is. Look, everyone, you can see here. Here's the mourners, line of mourners. Here you have the people, Kohen Gadol, and the deputy. Right? Here you have it. So the Kohen Gadol would come, and the deputy would be here, in between, meaning that he would have the deputy Kohen Gadol. That's the Memuneh.
It looks like the Kohen Gadol is closer to the mourner.
Exactly. Yes.
So what purpose is the assistant Kohen Gadol doing?
I think it's like as a how do you call this? As a separation.
Separation. He should be on the other side if it's separation.
Yeah, מהמלך מימינו של כהן גדול. Right? But that way, because the Kohen Gadol is always in the middle. That's why.
Okay.
That's why. In order to make that the Kohen Gadol is always in the middle, not that he's on the side. Okay? So he comes and he says like this. He says, right? When he's going to receive consolations from other people, everyone says to him, Anu kaparatacha, we are your kapara. Right? We are your atonement. And he says, and when they do a Seudat Havra'ah, remember Seudat Havra'ah is the first Seudah after they bury the person. It's everybody sitting on the floor. And he's going to be mesev on the safsal, on a small little tiny chair. Okay? Fine. Now we change from the Kohen Gadol to the king. Hamelech lodan velodani. The king does not sit as a dayan, and they do not judge him either. Right? Lo me'id velo mo'idin. The same thing, he's not going to testify about other people, and they're not going to testify against him. Yeah, he says over here, right? Obviously, we're going to explain later on in the Gemara all these halachot. Lo choletz velo choltzin et ishto. They do not. He does not do chalitza to somebody else, because again, it's a disrespect that they're going to have to spit it in front of him. Velo choltzin liishto. And they don't do chalitza to his wife. Lo miabem, lo miabem liishto. Right? They do not do yibum, not to him, or meaning he cannot do yibum, and the wife. They don't do yibum to his wife. Rabbi Yehuda comes and he says, right? Im ratza lachlotz o liabem zachul letov. If he wants to do chalitza or yibum, is going to be remembered. Amrulo, they said, en shominlo. We're not going to listen to him. Right? That means even if the king wants to do the yibum or chalitza, we do not listen to him. Ve'en nosin almanato. Nobody's allowed to get married to his almanah. Rabbi Yehuda comes and he says, Noseh melech almanato shel melech. Only a king could get married to another king's almanot. Because that's why we find by David HaMelech shenasat almanato shel Shaul. He got married to the almanah of Shaul HaMelech. שנאמר, but it says in a pasuk, ותנה לך בית אדונך ונשי אדונך בחיקך. I'm going to give you the house of your master and also his wives in your bosom. Which means that again, that's going to be also machloket later on. Fine. Says the Gemara. Kohen Gadol dan. A Kohen Gadol is going to judge other people. Shita, obviously, right? Why wouldn't he be able to judge other people? So he says, no, the chidush is danino tot sichale. The chidush is that they judge him as well. Meaning not that he could judge other people. He could judge other people, that's pashut. But even that they judge him, that's a chidush. So says the Gemara, Hanami Pshita. Obviously, that's obvious. Why not? Ilo dainina lei, right? He says, if we're not going to judge him, so how's it possible then he's going to judge other people? What does that mean? Shakish comes and he says, first you have to clean yourself and then afterwards you're going to clean other people. Which means if you're going to say that nobody could ever, meaning that he's never going to be judged, so how can he judge other people? Obviously you can't say that. But rather, but since we said melech, lo dam lo daninoto, that a king we do not judge and we do not judge him and he doesn't judge other people. So too we said that a Kohen Gadol can do it. That means even though it's obvious that a Kohen Gadol can do it, and we judge a Kohen Gadol and he also judges other people, it was because of the king that's why we mentioned, because the king obviously was no. Another answer, if you want, you could answer another answer. Hakamashmalan comes teaching the Tanya we learned to the Braita. Kohen Gadol sharak et nefesh. A Kohen Gadol comes and he kills a human being. B'mezid. If it's going to be mezid, nerag, he's going to be killed. B'shogeg, if it's going to be by accident, goleh, he's going to go to galut. Ve'over alaseh ve'alo taseh. Right? And he's going to be over on a positive and negative commandment. V'areu ke'diot lechol devarav. And he's considered a idiot for everything. Okay? The Gemara is going to explain. So says the Gemara, right? B'mezid neharag. If he kills somebody b'mezid, he's going to be killed. Well, pshit, obviously. So answers the Gemara, you're right. B'shogeg golei tzichal. No, the chidush is by shogeg, and that he goes to galut. Yeah? Huh? Yeah. So says the Gemara, hanami pshita. It's also obvious. So says the Gemara, itzich. Right? You do need it. Why? I would have thought to say hol v'ktiv, since it's written v'yashavad mota kohen gadol, that he stays there until the death of the kohen gadol. Ema would say kol idit le takana takanta b'chazara, right? Ligle. If there's a takana, he could go to galut. Telele takana, right? B'chazara lo ligle. But if there's no takana, he doesn't go to galut. Meaning like this, right? When a normal person kills, right? Does he ever get out of the galut? When the kohen gadol dies. So he says, okay, fine. He is the kohen gadol. So therefore he'll never go free. So when does he go free? When he himself dies. So therefore there's no takana. So I would have had a havamina, right? That since there's no takana, you do not go to galut, right? He says, Tetznam, we learned in the Mishnah, right? Ha'orei kohen gadol, yudchet amubet, ha'orei kohen gadol, or kohen gadol, right? 18b, ha'orei kohen gadol, or kohen gadol sharak et nefesh. When somebody kills a kohen gadol by accident, or a kohen gadol that kills by accident, right? He never gets out, right? Why? Because that's it. Right? Basically, there's no Kohen Gadol in the Bet HaMikdash, and therefore, if he's going to go now to Galut, he'll never go there.
There are situations that we're going to learn about.
One minute. So, Ema lo ligle. So I would say they don't go to Galut at all. Kamashmalan, that's a chidush. Meaning here, even though technically speaking, he doesn't have a way out. Meaning the Kohen Gadol, he goes to the exile, and he'll never get free. But the only time that he's going to get free when he himself dies. So therefore, he does never go free. So still, he goes to Galut. So says the Gemara, Ve'ima chanami. But why don't we say Be'emet like that? Why don't we say that Be'emet, since right now, there's no takana that he could get out, so he doesn't go to exile. So says the Gemara, Amakra, the Pasuk says, Lanu shama kol rotzeach. The one that any rotzeach is going to have to run over there. What's called rotzeach? Afilu kohen gadol b'mashma. When it says kol, it's including the kohen gadol. That means even a kohen gadol will have to run there. That means even though you're right, there's no takana, meaning there's no remedy, meaning there's no way out. Every other person has a way out of the galut. Kohen Gadol dies, and now he's got free. He got his ticket to freedom, right? It's like the pardoning of the president. Yeah, meaning when the Kohen Gadol passes away, that's the kapara of everybody, and therefore they go out free. Here, all of a sudden, we don't say that. So fine. Says the Gemara, "Over ala se ve'alo ta'aseh." The Gemara said that the Kohen Gadol, when he goes to galut, he's going to transgress a positive commandment and a negative commandment. Says the Gemara, "Lo sagid lo avad." He says, right? Isn't what the Kohen Gadol is forced to go against a mitzvah? What are you talking about now? That he's being over on a positive commandment and a negative commandment, and therefore he's like a hediot. So says the Gemara, "Hachi kamar." This is what it means to say. Yeah, im avar al aseh ve'alo ta'aseh. If right now he transgressed a positive or a negative commandment, which does not have a mitab betin, hareu kedio lechol devarav, in all the dinim, which means we're going to judge him like three dayanim, right? Just like any other person. We're not going to need a betin gadol. Meaning betin gadol is mamash for death penalties or things like that. But just stop, he does a positive commandment or a negative. So that's like a regular. He's like a regular person, and therefore they're going to judge him with 3 dayanim. So says the Gemara, Pshita, obviously. So says the Gemara, no. I would have thought to say, Hoilu tznan en danin lo et hashevel, lo et navi shekel, lo et kohen gadol, ela al bedin shel 71. Right? We learned it already. We learned that when we're going to judge, we cannot judge a shevet or a navi shekel, right, or the kohen gadol, unless you have 71 people. So Rav Ada Barava comes and he says, Kol dvar gadol yaviu elecha. Right, the Varav Shel Gadol. We're talking about the Varav Shel Gadol, the words of a Gadol, which means the Kohen Gadol. So Ema, I would have thought to say Kol the Varav Shel Gadol, all the words of a Gadol, meaning anytime that you do anything with a Kohen Gadol, automatically it's Kohen Gadol 71, automatically. Kamash Malan comes to teach you that no, we don't say that. That's only for Dinei Nefashot. Dinei Nefashot, you need 71. But other than that, even with 3 people, it's going to be enough. So says the Gemara, Ve'ema Chanami. So why don't we just say Hachanami that Be'emet, you always do need 71. So says the Gemara, Mi Kativ is written Divrei Gadol. It's not written right now, B'lashon Rabim, Divrei Gadol. Because if it said Lashon Rabim, Divrei Gadol, right, I would Be'emet think that you need all the Gadol, meaning everything to do with the Gadol, you always need the 71. Hadavara Gadol Kativ. What is the Davara Gadol? Davara Gadol Mamash, meaning Mamash, a big Gavera. Davara Gadol means Mamash, a bad Avera. When we're talking about a bad Avera, that's when a person is going to come and he's going to need the Bedina Gadol of 71. But it's Stam, anything else, right, that he's going to get Malkut or whatever it is, that you don't need a Bedina Gadol, that is going to be enough just to get the Bedin of 3. 2 dots. Says the Gemara, Kohen Gadol would testify and they would testify about him. Me'id. Does he actually testify? Can you please close the door? Sorry. Right? Does he actually testify? Vatanya, we learned in the Braita, Vitalamta. What does it mean, Vitalamta? Right? It says, Vitalamta, Hashem teshvim lachicha. Pe'amim shata mitalem, u'pe'amim she'ata mitalem. There are certain cases where you're going to close your eyes, which means that, for example, when you find lost object, you're not allowed to hide your eyes from it. Because it says, Lo tireh et shor achicha, or tzion nidachim badarach, vitalamta mehem. And you're going to conceal yourself from them. You have to do Hashavat Avedah. So sometimes you are allowed to do Hashavat. You are allowed to close your eyes, right? And sometimes you're not allowed to. What's the case? Kohen v'u bet hakvarot. What happens if he's a Kohen? And where's the lost object? In the bet hakvarot. Meaning he's walking by outside of the gates and he sees that there's a lost object right in the bet hakvarot. He can't do anything. Right? Zaken and lefi kavado. So he's an elderly person. And it's not his kavod that he's going to come and start running after the person, running and giving back on Avedah. Or he's going to lose too much money, more than the erech, than the value of the Avedah. In all these cases, it says, Vitalemta, that sometimes you're going to come and you're going to hide from it. So therefore, right, if it's not going to be kvodo, right, or things like that, he's allowed to hide himself from them. So for the fact that we just said that if a person has an Avedah, and it's not his kavod, so therefore what? He's allowed to hide himself from them. So therefore, why don't we say the exact same thing then? Why don't we say that a Kohen Gadol is not going to be chayav to testify? It's not his kavod. Right? Imagine, he just came and he saw an action and he saw something. Now we're going to come and obligate him to come. We're summoning him to court to come and start testifying. So Amar Rav Yosef says, no, you're right. You know what the pshat is? He's going to be la melech. He's going to judge. He's going to come and testify for the king. That means if the melech is coming bedin with somebody else, right, and the Kohen Gadol knows about the testimony, he could come and he could testify. So says the Gemara, what are you talking about? I thought we just said 2 seconds ago, Vatanan, lo dan velo daninoto. The king, you never judge the king. So what does that mean that Kilu, that he could testify on behalf of the king? I mean, you're right. To testify about whoever, right? Can control whoever. No. It has to be mamash. It has to be, he has to testify only about the king. But we don't judge the king. So what are you talking about? Right? Lo danim, velo dan, velo daninoto. Lo meid, velo meidinoto. So says the Gemara, you're right. Ela amar bizera, says the bizera, meid leben melech. Yeah. For the So before I was interrupted one more time. Yeah, Ela Amar Bizera. Says Bizera mean leben melech. You're testifying for the son of the king. What does that mean? That if the ben melech is going to go to judgment with somebody else, and the Kohen Gadol knows the edut, so therefore he's chayav le'aid, and it's not a zilzul in the Kohen Gadol because it's the son of a king. It's a prince. So therefore, right, and that's why. So you see from here. So says the Gemara, ben melech idiotu. What are you talking about? A ben melech is an idiot. Meaning when they're going to come and they're going to take all these sons, whether it's of presidents or things like that, he's a regular idiot. Well, he gets special protection, right? He's an idiot. He's not. There's no difference between him and any other commoner. So says the Gemara, you're right. Elamid bifnei hamelech. He's testifying in front of the king, which means that if the melech himself is sitting with dayanim to judge, there's no zilzul for the Kohen Gadol to come and to testify because he's there. Okay. Now, again, as the footnote, 1 second, we just said that what? That the king cannot judge. So who has that question, Richard? Tosafot. Tosafot says, Tema, right? He says, melech lo dan. The king cannot judge. The king cannot judge. What are you talking about then?
What's the answer?
Right? So they answered, the only reason why a king does not judge is because they cannot judge him. And if they don't judge him, so he's pasul to judge other people. So the Chachamim come and they say, because of what we said about purifying yourself, then you purify other people. So he says, but that's only if he says right, and not in a betim with other people. So what happens if he wants to judge by himself? Let's say he's a mumche and he's allowed to judge by himself, so he doesn't need other people. So he says dayan mumche. So then he's kasher ladun b'nei mamlechoti yechidi and not with other people. So therefore, he comes and he says that could be one thing. Other people want to say that even according to this pshat, right, when they come and they're going to testify about the Ben Melech, the kavanah is not that the king is going to be sitting there. It's because of the kavod of the Kohen Gadol. It's because of the Sanhedrin during the time of the. He says he's going to come and sit in the Sanhedrin during the time that his son is being judged, right? And since the king is there, it's not a zilzul for the Kohen Gadol to come. Meaning, really, be'emet, he's not really a judge. He's just coming to the court case. So he's coming to the court case, sitting down. Since he's there, it's not a zilzul for the Kohen Gadol to come and to testify for the Ben Melech, because the king is there. So therefore, there's still a kavod. There's a king. So therefore, he's allowed to come and he's allowed to testify. 2 different answers. Okay? But look in the footnote, it had it. Fine. So says the Gemara, Elamid bifnei melech. So says the Gemara, V'hai moshvi melech Sanhedrin. But when saying the king, they don't put him as part of the Sanhedrin. So he says, Mishum yikrad the Kohen Gadol, atav yativ. Because of the kavod of the Kohen Gadol that he's coming to testify about his son, the king is going to come and sit beside the Dayanim. And then they're going to accept the testimony. And then the king goes. And then we come and we're going to look into the judgment of the son of the king. But look, imagine, Mamash, they're judging the son's king as if, So fine. So in order to accept the testimony of a Kohen Gadol, so the king has to come in order to accept the testimony. But then he goes. Gufa, we learned in a Braita, we're not going to put a king as the Sanhedrin, or a king or a Kohen Gadol by the Ibur Shana. Melech b'Sanhedrin, why? What does that mean? The Torah says riv without a yod. Riv is an argument, but it says it without a yod. So lo ta'aneh al rav. What does that mean? Don't argue on your rabbi, which means you're not allowed to come and you're not allowed to be soter by the av beddin. So if you're going to put the king in the Sanhedrin, and let's say he's going to now come and he's going to say, we have to kill the guy. So now nobody else could come and argue on him. Right? Why? Because the second that he gave the psak, you're not allowed to argue. So therefore that's it. Lo melech velo Kohen Gadol b'ibur shana. You're not allowed to come and put a king or a Kohen Gadol in the leap year. Melech mishum afasna. He says, Afsanya. He says the king is because of Sanya. What does that mean? when you have to pay the workers, you have to pay the army. So he says, why? Because he has to pay, right, shnatit, according to the year. Now, if he's going to come and that means he always prefers that it's going to be a leap year. So that way he saves a free month. You understand? Meaning I'm paying you per year, not per month. So therefore, exactly, that means I'm biased. I have an interest to always say it's a leap year, because that's why I'm always gaining a month of service for free, right? So I always want it. So he's not allowed to. Kohen Gadol, because of cold. Yishum Tzina. What does that mean? You have to remember that all of a sudden, if you're going to make it a leap year, what happens? Kippur is 1 month later. When Kippur is 1 month later, it's closer to the winter. So therefore, obviously, it's cold, and he has to do all the dips, and he has to. So therefore, right, you have to be very, very careful. Huh? Amar Rav Papa. Rav Papa comes and he says, Shemami, now we learn from here. Shata, right? When we're going to come and we're going to change, right? The onot, the seasons of the cold and hot and batar yarchazil. We're going after the months. Any is it so? What does that mean? That means basically we're going after the year, right? Kilu ibrua. And so it comes out that it's going to cause that it's going to become now colder, right? Earlier, right? Because it's going to be in Chodesh Tishri. So says any is it so? There was a story with 3 roim bakar, right? That they were in the month of Adar. The Shabinu Rabbanan the Kamran, they heard the Chachamim saying, Chadam, one of them says, Im Bachir velakish kachada yenetz. If the zeraz magdim, which means that the seeds are coming earlier, that means the chitim are coming at the beginning of the choref, right? And the zeraz meuchar, that's going to be the seorim, because the seorim comes at the end, meaning the barley comes up, it grows after the after the what's it called, after the winter, after the wheat. The wheat comes first, and then the barley. Kachadayenetz. What does that mean? Yinavtu yachad, which means the karka is already hot enough in order to come and take it. Dinhu denhu adar. So therefore, that's the chodesh of adar. Dim lavan, if not, let den adar. It's not adar. The chadama, one of them says, im tor bitzvar bitlag yamut. If in the boker of the morning, right, kimat yamut ashor, because it's so cold, so the ox is going to die. Uvetiara, and during the afternoon, betul tena yidmuch, he's going to come and he's going to start sleeping in the middle of the shade of the fig tree, right? Yashlach mashke, right? You're going to come and you're going to take off its skin, right? And he says over here, Denu Adar, that's Adar. That's the month of Adar. And if not, let Den Adar, it's not going to be the month of Adar. The Chadama, one of them said, In Kidum Takif Lachadaye, if right now you're going to have the Ruach Mizrachit, right, which is very strong, the eastern wind going, and it's going to, but that's the one that brings the cold. And when it's going to start blowing, right, with your mouth, kenega the ruach, it's going to come. So then adar, that is adar. And if not, let dan adar, it's not going to be adar. So then they came and they were me'aberet hashana. So it comes out that they made it a leap year. Okay, so he says he says it's logical to say such a thing. Rabbanan Ravada. What do you think the rabbis are going to be somech on some roe bakar, on these shepherds? Really, be'emet, they made their own cheshbon. For roe bakar, but the shepherds was serious. They're expert. They're coming. They're helping out, but not the rabbis themselves. Already made the cheshbon. Once they heard it, yeah, we're correct in what we did. Choletz v'choltzim. Kapasik v'tani, we already did, talked about the what, that the Kohen Gadol could do chalitza, and they do chalitza to his wife, and they could also do yibum to his wife. There's no difference between right? Whether it's from the Rusin, right? That means she's still a betula, or from the Nisuin, right? Why? Because basically, since the brother died, even though let's say she was only an arusa, now she's only an arusa, technically she's still a betula. So she's still a betula. Why can't he just do yibum? So he says no. There's no difference, right? Why? Because she's a cheska beula. The second that she's married to the brother, she's kilu a beula. Maybe she's still a betula. No, sorry. So he could only do chalitza. He cannot do yibum. So bishlema nisuin. I understand from the nisuin haviyaseh velo taaseh. Why? A kohen gadol, it says kim betula me'amav yikach isha, and not the beula velo taaseh almana lo yikach. You have a positive and a command and a negative, meaning the Kohen Gadol has a positive commandment that he's only allowed to take a betula. He has a negative commandment that he's not allowed to take an almana. So therefore, it's an aseh and a lo taseh, right? Ve'en aseh doche lo taseh v'aseh. Now, a negative commandment, right? Sorry, the positive commandment of yibum cannot push off both a positive and a negative. One more time, the Kohen Gadol has the mitzvah aseh of yibum. It's a positive commandment. But he also has an aseh and a lo taseh. He's got an aseh. He has to get married to a kim betula meimav yikach isha, and he's got a negative commandment, right? Almana, that he's not allowed to take an almana. So he says, right? So I understand that a positive commandment cannot push off both. But if she's only Minyan Rusin, meaning if right now his brother got married and it was only a betrothal, it was only a Irusin, so now why can't he come and do Yibum? Right? Why? Yavo aseh, yitchelot aseh. His positive commandment of Yibum should push off the negative commandment that he's not allowed to take an almanah. A positive can't push off a negative. A positive cannot push off a positive and a negative. But a positive could push off a negative. So the Gemara is going to answer, right? Gezerah biyad yishona to biyashniya. He says, no. The biyad yishona is going to be a gezerah because of biyashniya. Meaning, where's the mitzvah of the yibum? The biyad yishona. Once after the biyad yishona of the yibum, right, the second biyah is not a mitzvah anymore. So once there's a second biyah which is not a mitzvah anymore, it's not a, so if it's not a mitzvah and if he's going to continue having relations with her, so therefore it's a gezerah, we don't want that to happen. Because the mitzvah of the yibum is only going to be on the first relation. So now the second that he finished the first relation, he doesn't have the mitzvah of yibum anymore. But what does he still have? She's still an almanah. She was always an almanah. So the positive commandment only pushed off for the first biyah.
If he doesn't get pregnant with the first biyah.
Doesn't
The whole
matter.
idea is